Yeah.
And he would have been traveling through the area between Houston and Galveston, so it's possible that he could be involved in one or two of the deaths.
Yeah.
But it's really tough to say. And in a way, he's done a really great job of clouding himself in just disbelief. Nobody believes him. So when somebody suggests, oh, I wonder if he did it, everybody's like, no, that guy admits he did everything. There's no way we can trust him to be usable.
Yeah.
So, there is a little game theory in that. If you start claiming responsibility for everything, eventually people will not believe you. And the time that you are actually responsible, nobody will believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
What's he got to lose or gain? I don't know. But these guys like this are so weird because they start admitting this stuff just so they can get the body count, the number, to go down in history.
Well, one thing I will just say is this is 83, right? That he got arrested. That he starts admitting to a bunch of murders.
Yeah.
83. So, most of these women didn't really disappear.
There's a slew of them in the 70s.
There's this, yeah.
But the thing is, remember, he's in jail.
Yeah,
he's in jail for a lot of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I say he might be maybe culpable for one or two, but that's kind of stretching.
Well, no, he was out. Oh, I don't know how long he was in jail for the kidnap of the 3 girls, I guess.
Yeah, I don't have that here, and I don't remember.
I don't think I don't think he did it, but
it's hard to say.
Hard to say.
Well, let's kick him to the curb.
Okay,
Henry.
let's kick them all to the curb very hard. Let's move on. We're going to move on to the one here that is titled "Unnamed Man in 1980."
I know where you got this one.
Yeah, okay. So I again, this is one of those I really hesitated to include, but dagnabbit, we include them all. So okay. Rhonda Johnson and Sharon Shaw. If you remember, those were the 2 girls who went to the beach in Galveston in 1971 and then never came home.
Yeah.
And Michael Self was the guy who was convicted of murdering these 2 girls.
Yeah.
Well, according to Unsolved Mysteries, and it's listed in their wiki, some man came forward in 1980 and went to the police, and he admitted that he was the one that did it, and he gave details that weren't released, such as the fact that the girls were apparently bound with electrical cords. But according to this, they say, oh God, how do they describe him? They say that they make a statement about his mental health, and I cannot remember the verbiage that is used. Basically saying that he was not having visions, but he was delusional.
Yeah.
Okay, but my problem with that is, it came from Unsolved Mysteries, so I haven't seen it anywhere else, so I have a hard time with it.
Investigations often.
They did, although sometimes it's nice to spice things up a little bit. Not saying they did that, but
Totally,
my point is, if this guy had details like that, don't you think there would be record of it somewhere? Of somebody actually saying, oh, we're going to investigate this guy? Don't you think that Self would have somehow heard of this and they would have tried to track down the records of this to exonerate that poor guy who still was sitting in jail?
Yeah,
at that point, almost 10 years for a crime he didn't commit?
I feel like there may have been some sense of, I don't know, this guy seems like he might not be totally mentally there, so realistically he's gonna get committed, not sent to prison, and well, we've already convicted this guy of it, and I don't know, he might be guilty even if there's some questions about it, and there may just be a sense of well, there's already somebody who's rotting for this case, so
Screw it.
Yeah.
Could have been. That is
I got to tell you that as a taxpayer, if that's the opinion of the police force, with my tax dollars, is we got somebody locked up, so screw it. We're not going to figure out if we did it right.
That's not really a good attitude to have.
I agree.
That makes me very upset.
I agree. I'm just trying to...
Even if I weren't paying taxes, I wouldn't be happy about that, frankly.
Well, I know there was a year or two that you didn't, but...
yeah. But,
sorry, IRS listeners.
Hey, yeah. Forget you heard that. And as far as the detail about tying them up with an electrical cord, that's not that bizarre. It could have just been a major, he could have been delusional, confessing to a crime he didn't commit.
We're going to move to our next suspect in our laundry list of suspects. This is number 5 in this giant list that I created. Okay. We have William Lewis Reese. William Lewis Reese committed his first crime when he was caught and charged in 1986 for picking up a 19-year-old girl in Oklahoma. He did that with the pretense of giving her a ride. Instead, he abducted and raped her for several days in the sleeper cab of a semi.
Okay, first of all, let's just go ahead and say he probably didn't commit his first crime at that time.
His first crime for getting that he was caught for is the way that I meant to phrase that.
That's a better way to look at it.
Yes. He, this girl, she managed to escape under the pretense of using a bathroom or something. I can't remember what it was. And then, he got charged for doing this crime. And while he was awaiting trial,
like out on bail.
Yes. While he's out on bail for this rape case, he raped another woman that he had met in a bar.
But what?
This guy seems to have a compulsion.
Maybe. He was sentenced to 25 years in prison for the first rape. I think he was sentenced for maybe it was 25 years total. I can't remember at the moment. But 25 years nonetheless. This guy should be locked up and kept away from the general populace.
Yes.
Yeah, not so much. He only served 10.
Yeah.
He only served 10 years of that sentence. He was then again put into jail in 1997 for kidnapping a woman. Just like Kevin Edison Smith, when he was put into jail in 1997, his DNA was put into the system and checked against other cases. And after that, he started getting linked to other unsolved crimes and cases. So this guy, he went about this, he wanted to avoid the death penalty because he was in jail, if I remember right, in Oklahoma. Maybe it was Louisiana. I can't remember which one it was.
One of those southern.
But it has the death penalty. And his deal was, you don't put me on death row. You don't try me for murder. And I'll go ahead and I'll help you out.
That's not an uncommon deal, actually.
It's not. Well, and so he led investigators into the field, and he took them to where the body of Jessica Kane was. She had disappeared in 1997.
Was she on our list?
Yes, she was.
Okay.
She was one of the last ones we talked about in that 30-person list. He also took them to where the body of a girl named Kelly Cox was. She had gone missing around the same time as Jessica, though she wasn't actually on our list. Kelly wasn't. Jessica was.
Jessica was 17, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
He is also believed to be connected to the disappearance of 12-year-old Laura Smither.
She's the ballerina.
The one who went jogging.
Why is that? Why is he suspected of that?
There are links in his pattern and his travels that make people think that he was in the area when it happened.
Oh, okay.
But it's obviously it's nothing concrete because he has not been charged with her death. But they think that he might be involved in that. I mean, but if you think about it, the guy was driving a truck. He was driving from Galveston all the way up into Oklahoma. What's the main city in Oklahoma City? Wow, Steve.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good job.
Well done.
Yeah. He was driving all from north to south along that route, driving a truck all the time.
On Interstate 45.
Well, Interstate 45 is the route between Houston to Galveston, so he's on that road. And if he's just out and about stealing girls and raping and killing them, then again, just like we said before, it's possible that he could be involved with at least one or two others that are on our list that just didn't get any recoverable DNA.
Yeah, the ones that were outside the killing fields, but somewhere else along I-45.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we talked about this a little bit before, and let's give a little more description of what's going on in terms of what it has to be like for these poor girls, because you think, well, they're on the side of the road or they're near the road, like they should be able to run and scream and get help.
Yeah, but there's nobody else out there.
It's oil fields, active and abandoned. It's giant expanses. Apparently it is amazingly windy, so you can yell at somebody 50 feet away, say, and they'd have no idea. Cars are whizzing by on the interstate a couple hundred yards away. They're not going to see what's happening. I mean, one of the cops in the Smither case was talking about the fact that You could literally get off the freeway, drive off the off-ramp, down a dirt road, drive for 5 minutes. You are now in a complete and total seclusion. Drop a body, drive back onto the freeway, and be gone, and no soul would be the wiser for months on end. And the only reason they would know is because they found the body. You don't.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of situation. This is why. So I know some people are going, "How is this possible? This doesn't make any sense." It is
pretty easy, actually.
Super
it's
easy.
such a rural area. It's just a stretch of road that is a freeway with a couple of little towns dotting it, and then it's marshes and dirt roads. That's all it is.
Yeah.
So it's why these girls are so hard to find.
Yeah.
Okay, so off of that soapbox, or whatever it was that I was on there for the moment.
Yeah. I think William Reese is a pretty good...
I think that this guy is probably responsible for a couple of them. The fact that okay, it didn't happen right away, but in watching what happened and evolved and his willingness to cooperate, I would call that a knee-jerk reaction of, oh hell, they're gonna figure out all the ones that I did. I'm gonna roll over. And he folded like a cheap suit, and he went ahead and he told them what he needed to make sure that they didn't kill him.
Yeah,
But
and
also
he didn't
his-
need to lead them to every single body, just a couple of them.
Right, I mean, but his ability to lead them to certain bodies
Oh yeah, it sounds like he did it.
definitely... You know, it's probably likely that he's responsible for the majority of the strangled bodies in
And
that
maybe
area.
not the shot ones, you think?
And maybe not the shot ones.
Yeah, so that's the weird thing is the ones that were shot. I've never found anybody who followed that pattern of steal a girl, and then once he has committed whatever acts he was intending to commit with her, his method of getting to kill her was to shoot her in the head. Like, none of these guys that we're talking about match that.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing in the early pattern
Yeah.
of these deaths.
Yeah.
Yeah, and by the way, the shots to the head, what caliber of gun were they?
They were smaller caliber, if I remember
Like
right.
22
I
or
want to
something.
say that I read once that it was a 22 that they were shot in the head, but I cannot be sure of that, Joe, because I've been reading about this obviously for a while, and then it was about 4 or 5 days ago, I was like, what crap, what caliber was it that they were killed with? And I started going back, and of course you know how this is. Suddenly you can't find it anymore.
Yeah, totally.
Because the internet has deleted that information from itself so that I cannot answer that question.
Yeah, alas.
Stupid internet.
So are there any more suspects?
Oh yeah.
Great.
It's the Kool-Aid Man should break in right now and say that. Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, there were a ton of suspects in this thing. I mean, I was compiling a list of my own, and it looks like you didn't miss anybody, but my list was getting pretty long. It was like, wow. This is,
Yeah, I almost
a lot
had to
of
go to a
suspects.
spreadsheet of suspects.
Yeah.
And that just rubs me raw. I don't want to make a spreadsheet of these people.
Yeah.
Ugh. I have a hard enough time having them on my computer as it is. Okay, we're going to go to the next guy, which is Edward Harold Bell. God, Bell's a weirdo. Bell showed up in Pasadena, Texas on the 24th of August, 1978. He was in a neighborhood. He got out of his truck in front of a bunch of children who were playing, and he didn't have any pants on.
You thought he was a cartoon duck.
Maybe.
Yeah.
No
Maybe.
pants, no underwear. He is just, there's a phrase for when you wear only a shirt, and I'm actually not going to say that. That's what he was doing. There's a guy by the name of Larry Dickens. Larry's mom yells to him and says, listen, slow that guy down. Don't let him get near the kids and delay him long enough for the cops to get here. So Larry Dickens does that. He's a stand-up guy, and he gets in his way. He eventually takes Bell's keys out of Bell's truck, at which point Bell loses it. He shoots Dickens a couple of times with a pistol. Larry Dickens runs away. He runs into the garage of his mom's house and he collapses. His mom is holding him. Bell comes up and demands the car keys or the truck keys back. Larry gives him the keys, at which point Bell shoots him point blank in the head while his mother is still holding him, and then walks back to the truck. And while this seems not not normal. You would
Not
think at this
really.
point he would then get in his truck and drive away. No, he grabs a rifle and he comes back and he continues to shoot Larry in the face.
Nice guy.
Yeah, he then at this point he tries to get away. It
He
takes
probably should have not come back with the rifle if he really wanted to get
Yeah.
away.
yeah, if he was trying to
Probably
flee,
wouldn't have
then
gotten away
yeah,
anyway.
that was a bit excessive.
A bit.
A bit, yes. Understatement of the year on my part. So he tries to get away. The cops catch him in like 20 minutes. He didn't do any very good job at all of trying to escape.
But this next part is what really puzzles me.
Well, but the brutality of the case? Because, I mean, they
No.
bring him back and his sister, Larry's sister, IDs him and, oh, the release. Okay,
They let him go.
Okay, yeah, they let this bozo go. They charge him and they release him on bail and he's gone.
What a surprise.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah, no guano. He is gone, and he is at large for a total of 14 years. Bell is eventually arrested in Panama in 1993.
There's a Panama, Florida. Yeah, Panama City, I think, Florida.
Yeah, I think it is. It's Panama City, Florida. I just realized, wait, not Panama, the country, Florida, in 1993. And at that point, he was sentenced to 70 years in prison.
Just 70, though.
Just 70.
Again, not life.
But again, they begin to look at his history and his pattern, and they believe that he might actually be the one who was involved in the murders of Rhonda Johnson and Sharon Shaw. Again, the girls who went to the beach.
Yeah.
He's another one. This guy, he fills in details in unsolved mystery or unsolved murders, and he starts confessing to things. And initially he claimed that he had killed 7 girls. He then changed that number in 2011 to 11 girls. And a guy like this who makes his own catchphrase, I really worry that this guy is watching The Apprentice in prison to come up with a catchphrase like this, because
Yeah.
his catchphrase is the 11 that went to heaven.
Yeah.
It's disturbing, but he makes, again, this is one of those things, like these crazy claims. He begins, he's always actually said that it wasn't his fault. It was
Yeah.
the government's fault.
Yeah, they brainwashed him.
They
Yeah.
brainwashed him and they programmed him and they forced him to be a flasher and to rape girls and to want to kill them.
Yeah.
He seems like a good suspect for the girls that were shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
He did like to shoot people.
Did like to shoot people.
Yeah. So actually, I guess I misspoke earlier. He is suddenly flailing firearms.
Yeah.
You know who he actually makes me think of is reading his case. It made me think that maybe he was loosely the basis for the movie Mr. Right.
Yeah.
Have either of you seen that? It's a
I
Sam
haven't
Rock.
seen that movie. No, I have. It looks kind of intriguing. I just
It's a
haven't gotten around
Sam
to it.
Rockwell movie, and it is a lot of fun. I saw the description, and I was really hesitant, and then my wife and I sat down and watched it. And normally in my house, I'm known for picking really bad Netflix titles. Why did you pick that movie? That was a horrible movie.
Yeah.
She actually laughed through it to the point she's like, okay,
Good.
that one was good.
Good.
It's
You
Sam
liked it?
Rockwell. I mean, you can't go wrong with Sam Rockwell.
Yeah, sure. Whoever he is.
You know who he is.
Yeah, oh yeah. Next up,
Next up, we have Clyde Edwin Hendrick. Okay, so
Hedrick, I think.
Hedrick, you're right, not Hendrick,
Yeah.
Hedrick. So this one and the next one, I'm going to tell people, if you are in a position to do so, please pause and Google this guy and look at his mugshot. He is a Texas resident, and he looks like he has lived in the backwoods of Texas for many, many years. It's an amazing mugshot.
Yeah.
But Clyde in 1985 was questioned in the investigation of the death of a woman by the name of Ellen Ray Beeson. And initially, they didn't know that she was murdered. They just knew that she died and something didn't add up. And then 20 years later, so they charged him with tampering with a corpse. And then 20 years later, they exhumed her body and they reinvestigated the case and they figured out what was going on. And here's what was going on. According to Hedrick, he and Beeson had been out drinking, and then they had gone to some place and she had gotten naked and went skinny dipping, and then she drowned.
Not with him, she didn't.
And then
That could have been a smiley face killer thing.
could have been.
Yeah.
When she drowned, he went in to help her, but when he got her body out, she realized she was dead. So he panicked and he threw her in the back of his truck, and he looked for a place to dispose of her body and eventually dumped her body.
That totally makes sense.
When they exhumed the body, the description of the case says that when it was in the initial autopsy and body review done, she was not cleaned enough. I believe that means they did not get enough brain out of her skull to be able to tell this stuff in the x-rays. But when they exhumed her body and they did a good job, they figured out that part of her skull was caved in because she'd been clubbed in the head with something, which means he had clubbed her in the head and killed her. And that's why he panicked and dumped her body. So why are we talking about this guy? Well, the reason is that what he did is where he dumped her body was near Calder Road, the Calder Road property, the killing field. He threw her body. It's reported under a couch,
So
but it's also in other reporting said that it was actually just a bench car seat, the back seat of a car.
Got it.
this is also a dumping ground for stuff other than bodies.
Apparently so.
Apparently, yeah,
I mean, it's
okay.
an abandoned chunk of ground, so
Yeah.
not really surprising.
Yeah.
So that's why he's brought up in this. I got to tell you that there's not a whole lot of linkage in terms of him to this place other than that one thing. I
Yeah.
mean, he is one of the few people that I know of who got charged for the same crime twice and convicted in two different ways.
Yeah,
So it
smart,
goes down
yeah.
the books that way, but
I don't think a guy that looked like him would have had an easy time of it trying to get girls to climb into his car
Agreed.
voluntarily.
not in the later years of his life, not the
No.
20 years later, but
Yeah.
okay. Well, then let's go to one of our final ones here.
Bobby Jack. I like this
Bobby
guy.
Jack Fowler.
I
You do
don't
remember
like
Bobby
this guy.
Jack?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we heard about Bobby Jack from My Favorite Murder.
Yeah, when we were at their show here in Portland.
Yeah.
Georgia and Karen talked
Yeah.
about him.
So this guy actually, I consider him a contender for best mugshot ever.
Yeah.
Again, this is another one. Please
So
Google
good.
this guy's
It's
mugshot.
good.
You will have a little fun at his expense, and that is perfectly okay.
It's totally okay, given the kind of human he is.
Yes,
Was?
but I don't know if he was a human, to be quite honest.
Fair.
I think he might have actually been a mole person or a
Fair.
reptilian or
Yeah.
whatever it is you want to call him, because he was another terrible human being.
Oh, yeah, he was a very prolific serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of the ones that's not so famous as, like, everybody's heard of Henry Lee Lucas and Ted Bundy, but this guy's a little more obscure, but he killed a lot of people.
He did. He
Oh,
did a
hell of a
lot of
people.
killing. So Bobby Jack Fowler was a construction worker, and he traveled across the U.S. He looked for work. He also apparently at the same time was looking for women to have unconsensual sex with and then possibly kill. The man was all over this country. He's known to have been in British Columbia, Florida, Iowa, Louisiana, Texas, Oregon, South Carolina, Arizona, Tennessee, and Washington State. Literally all over this continent. Well, the northern
All
half
over
of
the
it.
western
Yeah.
part of it, anyway.
Well, the
Wow.
Louisiana's
I
not
guess
northern.
Louisiana's kind of east a little
Yeah.
bit.
Texas is not northern.
South Carolina's
Yeah.
on the other coast. Come on, buddy.
Arizona?
Ah, it's fine.
Tennessee?
Okay,
Yeah.
so according to what I've read, he starts his criminal career in 1969 with a murder charge in Texas that didn't stick. And I don't want to try and get into this guy's psyche, but it is said, and I'm going to emphasize the word said, because I don't know that he ever said this himself, but it is said that he believed that, quote unquote, women he came into contact with who were hitchhiking and or hanging out in bars wanted to be sexually assaulted.
Oh,
You're
that's
asking for it.
That's some pretty ironclad reasoning. Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
this guy, I mean, obviously already it's pretty nobody likes this guy. He was put into jail for the final time in 1996 based on what happened on June 28th, 1995, when he was with a woman in Newport, Oregon. He was in a hotel. She jumped out of the second-story window of the hotel to escape him. She still had a rope tied around her ankle. She got to the police. She told the police what was going on. Obviously, she was not there by her own choice. She was there under duress. And then they arrested him, and they took his DNA. He thankfully died in 2006. He died in prison, but his DNA has linked him to several cases all over the country. I know this one's on our list, but there is the is it the Highway of Tears?
Yeah.
Yes, it's the Highway of Tears in British Columbia.
Yeah.
And so he's linked to at least one case up there through DNA. He's also believed to be responsible for the death of 4 girls in the Newport, Oregon area back in, I believe it's the mid-'80s or maybe it's the early '90s. Again, there's so many of these guys, it's hard to keep all of their various crimes straight. He liked to travel. I think he called himself a rambling man. I think that's where I got that phrase early. He liked to say he was rambling about.
Yeah, well,
but he liked to travel, he liked to rape, he liked to kill, he liked to drink.
He was just awful.
Yeah.
He was all around just a terrible guy. But
Well, the guy, yeah, got to hand it to him, though. He knew what he wanted, and he just went out and got it.
I wouldn't say I've got to hand it to him. I would say we need to take it away from him because that guy shouldn't have been doing what he was doing.
Oh, absolutely. No, he should have been put in the cage a lot earlier than he was. He got away with murder for a long time.
No pun intended.
No, literally.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yes,
he did.
absolutely. So the fact he is a one that he's actually seems to be gaining some traction in terms of people knowing about him because of being linked to these things in various places.
Yeah.
And I can't say that he's not responsible for any of these things in Texas. He could very well be.
But I can't see him really sticking around for years. He might have been responsible for some of them, but
that's why
not the entire series, I don't think.
Well, but they have such large gaps in between them.
Yeah, it could have been. He came and went.
Came and went and came and went and came and went.
He was doing what he was doing. He just wasn't doing it in the same city and state the whole time.
Yeah.
So the path is not connected. The connecting the dots, it just never happens.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
I'd really like to know exactly how many people old Bobby Jack did kill.
I don't think we'll ever know.
No,
I was
I
going to say,
don't think
Bobby
so.
Jack's the only one who will know, and he obviously wasn't going to talk.
Yeah.
I mean, he was in jail for a good 10 years before he died, and he never spilled the beans. So,
Yeah.
Sure.
no telling. So our final one is actually a theory, though it's a very simple one, which is that it was all of these guys, or it was none of these guys, or it was a single guy. Like this is the general discussion area. We don't normally do this.
We don't know. It could have been, though.
But I mean, yeah, if you think about it, it's entirely possible that some of these girls were killed by the same person in the groups or clusters, and that accounts for all of them. It's possible that none of them were killed by these guys, except for the ones who we know, like Bobby Jack and Ken, whatever his name is.
Kevin.
That we know by DNA. But I mean, maybe all the ones I've talked about so far, they're not it. Maybe all of the other ones, this is the scariest story. The part of the story is maybe they're all the same guy, and he's just doing it different all the time, or
mixing it up. Yeah.
Yeah,
Makes
or
sense.
as Joe said, he's some kind of authority figure.
You know what? To be honest with you, it's scarier to think that they're all done by different people.
True.
That's even scarier to me, that there are that many people, men or women, who during this time period, for whatever reason, kill young women and then just dump their bodies into swamps. Like, that's the scariest theory to me, is that there are 30 individual...
Yeah.
Or what, 20, I guess 25 if the couple that, like...
Well, but like Joe said earlier, he looked at another list, and I mean, that list was 50 girls deep.
That's the
Very
scariest
50 or
one
60,
to me,
something.
is that,
So-
that none of them are really connected.
And it probably is more than one person, I think. I mean,
I
some of the
think so,
MOs
too.
varied enough. Like, whoever did all the gunshots to the head,
Probably the same.
probably maybe somebody else.
I would say it's probably like 2 or 3.
I like the idea that if it was a cop, he's like, well, I don't like it in the sense that I enjoy it. Don't get me
You
wrong.
like it as a good
As a theory.
theory.
Well, yeah. So he's wants to go do a little killing. So he goes to the evidence room and just grabs a gun there that's been checked into evidence, goes out and murders somebody with it, and then just brings it back and puts it back in evidence.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he could have done something. I doubt that he would do that. That's taking a big risk.
That's
but,
a giant risk, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
if it's
kinda
already
is.
in evidence.
Yeah, it kind of is, but still, you know, I mean, what a great way to get rid of your weapon.
Yeah, no. What you're talking
Yeah.
about is, I believe it was Training Day. Denzel Washington. They had a gun that was dirty that had been used in a crime, but the cops were hanging on to. That would be the gun in your scenario that would get used. It's a gun you've taken off of somebody that you know was used to commit a different crime.
That is another way to do it. It's like if you take it off a criminal, you have lots of opportunities to do that kind of stuff.
You know, it's really scary to me, and